And one single dose, and so our anesthesia guys are using that for lab chole routinely. 25 milligram, 50 milligram. Why? Because there are 25, 50 studies showing that. But forgetting the side effect profile. And that's what we were doing for gabapentin. We recommended that, but now we are realizing we have problems. So be careful with ketamine. Surgical interventions, we already discussed this. I'm not going to go into details of that. So, what do you want to do? Take lunch? Or is it too early?
It's 11. A little bit early.
Okay.
Yeah, I can show you that infiltration.
You want me to see if I can
Let's do that.
And did we? I missed the slide and show the absolute contraindications.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No. That's important.
Yeah.
I promised you that.
I couldn't have selected that. There's no way. I was watching every slide.
Okay. I'll show you the contraindication, but this is no difference between NSAIDs or Coxib with respect to analgesic, but the key is equianalgesic dose, potency. So last night, Brian and I were discussing this, is how marketing, and I'm sorry, David, but pharmaceutical companies do manipulate stuff, and marketing does make a difference. So give you history. I'm sure all of you remember Vioxx. 50 milligrams of Vioxx was magical.
Miss it.
We all
They say
miss
it's
it.
coming back.
Oh, no. It's not coming back.
You sure?
Uh,
I saw something.
$1 billion spent, and there's no way it's coming back. So it was a magical drug, 50 milligrams. And we need to compare equipotency with 50 milligrams of Vioxx for all other NSAIDs and COX-2s. So I was fortunate enough to be involved with all the perioperative studies for celecoxib, Vioxx, rofecoxib, celecoxib, paracoxib, valdecoxib. These are the 4 opioids which were studied in those days in the late 90s, early 2000, in fact, mid to late 90s. And at that time, when we were comparing celecoxib with Vioxx, what we found was that for 50 milligrams of Vioxx once a day, the equivalent dose was 200 TID of celecoxib. However, the manufacturers...
200, you said BID or
TID?
TID.
That was
Of celecoxib.
Yes,
I was saying.
for the studies.
Okay.
For the
Wow.
studies.
That's-
However, what was happening at that time was the war between Merck and Pfizer, and Merck was saying this is single dose, compliance is good, blah, blah, blah. And now you have, Pfizer had to make that decision. That's why they recommended 200 BID
Instead of TID.
instead of TID, though the actual
Mark needs
equipotent dose
recommendation.
is the equipotent dose for celecoxib is 200 TID. It is a shorter-acting drug. And I have data for that, very good data.
Because, there's a lot of them that they say dose it once a day, and I said, you can't do that. For
Well,
celecoxib.
celecoxib, no, not for acute pain. Now, chronic pain is... People are confusing chronic pain
Right.
with acute pain. Acute pain, 5 days or 7 days of use of these drugs, the doses are significantly higher and the duration is shorter. So, equipotent doses of Vioxx, 50 milligrams, celecoxib, 200 TID, meloxicam, which is supposed to be 1 day daily dose, actually is 15 BID. So again, if you look at Mobic, when I was giving all this history to Brian last night, is when all these COX-2s were doing great, the manufacturers of Mobic were riding on that saying, we are a COX-2. Our COX-2 is more than our COX-1, so it's basically COX-2. The moment all these bad things started happening to COX-2s, they became COX-1. In fact...
They all become non-selective again, didn't they?
Yes, in fact, I was told that in the sales arena, the salespeople are taught, look at the Mobic example and how they immediately changed and kept Mobic high up, because at that time Mobic was the only prescribed COX-2 and the physicians wanted to show our ortho surgeons particularly that, oh, I'm giving you a great drug, you can't get it off over the counter, but it's basically an NSAID. So the real equivalent dose for Movic or meloxicam is 15 BID. We use only 15 once a day. For ibuprofen, it's 800 TID.
Yeah.
So we have all that, and so that's that. Now, as far as side effect profile is concerned, there's no difference in the side effects. So what are the contraindications? Oh, sorry, you want to take a bit?
I do get it.
So even GI, Girish?
No difference.
The whole COX-1, COX-2 story, if you recall, was
Yes.
built around GI
Yes.
adverse events.
Acute pain only. This is very specific for discussion for acute pain. That means no more than 15 days of therapy. Now, if you go to long duration, the data are different, but still controversial.
So for short term.
Yes.
So the Toradol is a
Very
liver,
cyclic.
liver,
Yes.
not really GI toxicity issue.
No, the only difference between COX-1 and COX-2 is platelet. You can give a COX-2 prior to surgery because it has no platelet effects.
Okay.
But you cannot give an NSAID prior to surgery because concerns of bleeding, though hypothetical. In reality, not really.
So at the end of the day, after all of that, really that's the benefit. Is
Yes.
bleeding COX-2.
That's the only. So if you believe in preemptive analgesia, you want to give your COX-2 prior to surgery, that's fine, then it works. If you don't believe in preemptive analgesia, then I give my ketorolac at the end of surgery and no difference at all.
But you know, the APS guidelines have kind of backtracked. In the 2008 guidelines, the APS guideline book, they were saying that, because everybody says, oh, you don't take any NSAID or aspirin 2 weeks prior to surgery. And they were saying, that's so not true. Certainly aspirin, affects the platelet for a lifetime of the platelet, but the NSAIDs are just really to affect the half-life of the drug. And so you can take them the day before. But so many people don't understand the difference, that it was easier for doctors to go, just don't take any of it 2 weeks prior.
So
Or
in
just say,
fact,
go ahead and take them all because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah,
But now
I would
they've-
say
but
take
now
them
they've
all.
backtracked, and they've actually, if you look at the new 2016 APS guidelines, they really pulled apart each. They looked at every one of them and time frame for that is a little bit different. And a lot of our docs are like, they're going to get ketorolac intraoperatively. I don't care about that. Others are just so freaked out about the whole idea of bleeding if they're doing tiny little surgeries.
yeah, that's a problem.
They
In
need to
fact,
look at their
there was a
own
very
society
large
guidelines. And GI
large
is a big abuser
correct.
of this. Like they come in for a colonoscopy, and if they're on aspirin, they'll actually call me if you want to cancel the case.
No.
I'm
So
like,
the,
well, I could take the colon out on aspirin, so I think I can take the colon. It'll be okay.
So it's amazing how we have data for aspirin because a lot of our cardiac patients are on aspirin coming in for surgery, and we continue aspirin because of the cardiac reasons. We don't want them to have MI post-op, and there's no difference in bleeding with those who continue aspirin versus those who don't. So this is, David, this is one of the largest data meta-analysis ever done. 280 trials of NSAIDs and placebo. And when they say NSAIDs, they include celecoxib, all the COX-2s and NSAIDs as one. They define, remember we were talking about yesterday, diclofenac and COX-2s are all are NSAIDs, bottom line, as far as they're concerned. And this is,
Sorry, what is vascular risk?
vascular risk is the MIs they were causing,
Okay.
remember?
So cardiovascular.
Cardiovascular.
Okay.
But they call it vascular because the MIs were basically from the coronary vascular.
Okay.
Vascular, upper GI, look at this. Not much of a problem. Similar. NSAIDs increase the vascular, and NSAIDs are as a whole, right? Don't separate out COX-2s. Vascular risk and GI risk to varying extent, but the size is similar. And what is the varying extent? Vascular risk for high-dose diclofenac, which we never use, 150 milligrams per day, and possibly ibuprofen, 2,400 milligrams per day, are comparable. No difference.
But what were the length on this? That was the big concern about the bigger
This is
study,
all long
because
term.
it was all long term. Yeah.
This is all long term.
And that's what I tell everybody. I don't want to put anybody on it for 6 weeks. Not even 6 days. But if we can have 3 doses,
But the
it's
reason
going
I'm
to determine whether or not they
so
have a
the
good
reason I'm
hospital stay or a bad
presenting this
hospital stay.
though is long term. If there is no problem for long term, there is no problem for short
Yeah.
term.
That exactly.
difference.
That's why I had a card at the
Yes.
search. I
So
would love to use
again,
it,
the
but I
key
love
is it's